NewsX World is the G20 Summit. World leaders are gathering in Johannesburg in South Africa for the annual G20 Summit, the first time the event is being held in an African country. This comes amid a boycott by the United States over the controversial claims that the host country mistreats white people. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron is attending a ceremony at Pretoria's memorial for the struggle against apartheid. He is honoring French figures who supported the movement, including Frantz Fanon, Francois Moncla, and Paul Verges, along South African Vice President Paul Mashatile. Let's take a look at what President Macron had to say.
Ce combat, s'il fut d'abord celui des Sud-Africains, a vite dépassé les frontières. Combat contre l'apartheid, l'inhumanité, la barbarie, combat pour unir les femmes et les hommes et les peuples entre eux, combat plus difficile encore une fois l'apartheid révoqué contre la vengeance ou l'oubli. Combat qui unit des femmes et des hommes à travers le monde, portés par une même exigence de justice et de dignité. Parmi eux, 20 destins de France que nous célébrons aujourd'hui. Et merci une fois encore. L'Afrique du Sud n'était pas à tous leur pays, mais à tous l'égalité était leur cause et la justice leur idéal. Leur cœur ne vibrait pas seulement pour la France, pas seulement pour l'Afrique du Sud, mais pour la liberté universelle.
And the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also addressed the Global Fund Pledge event in Sandton, where he welcomed the fund's commitment to reform, emphasizing the strengthening of national health systems and keeping communities at the heart of global health efforts. He also affirmed UK's intention to work more closely with multilateral partners like Gavi and regional bodies such as the African Union. Let's hear what Prime Minister Keir Starmer had to say.
Health systems have become fragmented. So I really welcome the Global Fund's commitment to reform, putting countries back in the lead, strengthening national health systems, keeping communities at its heart, and working ever more closely with multilateral partners like Gavi and key regional bodies like the African Union.
And now we're welcoming Dr. Charles Sinkala, who is an international relations expert, joining us live from Johannesburg on this bulletin. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sinkala.
Thanks for having me.
And now let's speak about the broader agenda of this year's G20 and the significance that it has, given that it's the first one that's being held in an African country first.
Well, it's quite significant in the sense that Africa must be recognized as a participant in terms of the global economies, and notwithstanding the fact that Africa produces quite a number of raw materials. And I think in the sense of industrialization to create employment in the African continent, that has to be mediated between both parties, the West, the East, and as well as the global North.
Sure. Well, I requested to stay on with us. We have some live visuals coming in from the G20 Summit. Let's take a look.
As president of the G20, South Africa has, throughout the past year, through its stewardship of some 130 meetings in various parts of South Africa, in other countries on the African continent, and beyond our shores, including at the United Nations, we have sought to undertake this task with care, with dignity, and with diligence. We have sought at all times to preserve the integrity and the stature of the G20.
All right, viewers, let's in fact also tell you, while those crucial important visuals are being telecast from G20 South Africa 2025 Summit, that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have both skipped attending the summit, both for different reasons, of course. But let's bring back our expert Charles Sinclair into the discussion here. Charles, you were speaking about the significance of the summit being held in South Africa and the first time in an African country. But let's also talk about Trump's abstaining from attending the summit, and Xi Jinping, who himself is not attending, although his representative will be attending the summit. How do we see the summit going forward with the absence of two key world leaders?
I can speak on President Jinping of China. I think he could have an excuse that may be understandable. He's got his representative who's attending at the moment. As you have been aware that India is part of the BRICS nations that form the BRICS Council, which is South Africa, Brazil, India, and Russia are part of. And I think they are very strong supporters in terms of South Africa's foreign policies and the industrialization of their economies. For the latter, President Trump, it's a sense of influence that the United States of America, especially President Trump, who has become very critical on South African stance on Palestine and Israel, and they want to influence those policies that South Africa should take that stance, which South Africa has denied. Even the accusation of white genocide, which has been word published, and I think some few months ago, weeks ago, there was a meeting that President Cyril Ramaphosa traveled to the White House, where they demonstrated that there's no actual genocide, white genocide, they call it, in South Africa, but there's criminal activities that are perpetuating there. But, yes, United States of America can be viewed as a country or nation that is very influential in terms of the global agenda. But, their absence there, yes, it could have been better that they form part of the G20 summit in South Africa. But their absence as well is a blessing in disguise that nations that are attending, they can discuss freely, because most of the challenges that they have with the United States of America.
Sure. Dr. Sinclair, let's also talk about some of the key negotiations that we can expect in this year's summit, now that world leaders have started arriving there.
Well, the key negotiations is to recognize the international law, the Vienna Convention 1962, and as well as the United Nations Charter for Human Rights, and as well as the other instruments which has been enacted since the formation of the United Nations. The second part is that the G20 nations should also include Africa on the United Nations Security Council, which the United Nations has denied including them. Those among the other things, and as well as the influence in terms of either France and Russia and other nations which are dissecting and bisecting Africa in terms of allies by providing military and security companies that are protecting mineral wealth. As we can see that the eastern part of DRC has been infested by conflicts because of the international community who are in those areas. We can remember very well that DRC has never been okay when they killed Patrice Emery Lumumba in 1961 and replaced him with Mobutu Sese Seko Kumbendo Ngwanzabanga, who has been over the years was a subservient to the West to dominate at an expense of the people of the DRC. And among others, security concerns which are affecting Africa that should top up the topic on how world leaders, should address issues without, storing to allies and conflicts that has dominated the world, like the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and as well as Palestine, Israel conflicts. Also, we have conflicts in South Sudan and Sudan, which has never seen any light of peace from the time that the two countries they split. The one country rather split from South and the northern Sudan.
Right. Well, thank you, Dr. Sinclair, for joining us live here on NewsX World.